And I discovered Def Jam poetry on YouTube. And I remember thinking, this is a really cool crossover of like, it's not theatre, but it's not rap, it's not like prose. Like, what is it? But I remember feeling really comfortable in that intersection, but I'd never tried it. So I realised that if you speak quieter, people listen more. Like, people have to lean in. Because I think poetry like seizes an audience more than I've seen any other art form do, you know? Like, it just, you're listening to voice and that's it.
Wicked, 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 wicked. Hey, what's going on, people? How you doing? My name is Yomi, and I'm here live with the audience. I'm going to ask the audience to make some noise in a minute. But welcome to Apples and Snakes podcast. I'm Yomi. In the wonderful Mason and Fifth. Looks nice, the light, glowing. I don't know yet. I'm going to see it. The post-grade by the one and only Drew. Producer Iman is here. It's live. We've got a live audience here. Audience, make some noise, please. Wicked. It sounds good. Got some folks that feels like they're from South London. We don't know. But it kind of feels like the vibe. Everything is here. And it's an absolute honour to be speaking with the one and only Sophia Thakur. And I remember, this bio is very long.
Sorry,
it's
man.
long. Don't apologise. It's long. But what I can say before I kind of give you a snippet of this is, I've known Sophia from when I had like a speck of grey hair in my hair, yeah? And I didn't know what it was going to turn out to be. I didn't even know what was going to be my hair journey or whatever it is, but just to kind of give you like a brief scope of the length of time that I've known Sophia. And I'm just going to kind of read just a bit of this A4 piece of paper with all bunch of accolades on it. So acclaimed by the BBC as a poet of this generation. Can we make some noise for that, please, audience? And celebrated in Vogue's prestigious Women of the Year edition as one of the most adored poets of our time. What? Ooh la la, and everything else with that. Sophia Thakur stands as a transcendent voice, a generational storyteller whose words resonate deeply with the hearts of millions. Her visionary reinvention of poetry, a traditional revered art form, has not only redefined the genre, but earned her a coveted spot on Forbes 30 under 30. I can't even claim that, boy. I ain't 30 no more. Yeah? All right, cool. Forbes 30 under 30 for extraordinary impact on the global art scene. Can we please make some noise for the one and only Sophia Thakur?
Thank you.
Boom. So get to the lights.
Thank you.
Get to the lights. There's so many achievements, and I'm sure we're going to get into the mix with everything, with history, with how you are now, what's happening with you. How are you, man? How you doing?
I'm good. I'm really happy to be here. Like you said, having this conversation. You had a skin fade when we met.
Whew.
So it's like, yeah, BC.
Listen, I had my skin fade, my 10-day trims. Life was good. And we're here at this point, and I think I'm really excited to be speaking with you because I think when you even said Greeds, I was like, oh my God, there's history here to talk about. But before we kind of get into anything in the past, in the season is important because we're looking into performance. And you definitely have extensive experience in that field. And I'm really, really looking forward to talking to you about that. Before we get anywhere remotely into that, I want to just check in and be like, how are you feeling? How present are you at this point in time? Like, where you at? 10 toes down, all that stuff.
Yeah, I'm where my feet are. I'm ready to speak and yap. And I feel good. Yeah, I feel good. It's been a good week. Busy week, but happy to actually just have a moment to just talk.
For the folks who are not aware about you, like Sophia, there's a scene that definitely knows who you are, but for the folks who are not aware about you and what you do, how would you best describe you? I don't know, I'm kind of thinking about if there was a film, like what would it be? Do I want to run with that? Yeah, I want to run with that, and I still want to run with the idea of just describing just you as like you and the work you do type thing. But let's go with that film first.
Okay, if it was a film, I think it would be a journey of someone realizing that the same way an athlete isn't just an athlete when they go and like run.
Yeah.
An athlete lives an athlete lifestyle.
Yeah.
So I feel like ever since I was young, I've been in pursuit of like a poetic lifestyle.
Yeah.
So I think even if I wasn't writing or wasn't performing, I still think I've practiced life like a poet. So I feel like the film would be just like someone quite wanderlusty, quite wanderlust, I think is what more I'm looking for.
Yeah.
It's really, really passionate, just trying to find a place, I think, trying to find a place where, like a place like New York is what I would say, a place where everything's very passionate, very expressive, very sensitive. And I think I would want someone like Zendaya, I think, playing me, I think could be cool. Or Amanda Spielberg.
Yeah,
I don't know if I'm saying her name correctly, but I feel like she could, or Yara Shahidi. I feel like she definitely could pull off like being a poet. And it would be directed by like Spike Lee or like Ryan Coogler.
Yeah.
Just someone cool.
You've got your film ready. I don't even know if I can come up with all of this so quick. You're set. We was joking before we kicked into gear that one of my early memories of seeing you was you were performing in Camden in like, it was opposite the Roundhouse in like a community hall, and I knew you were performing, and Alim Kamara was hosting. Alim. And I just wanted to just see you do your thing, and I got a parking ticket that day.
I'm sorry, man.
But it was worth it. Hey, my friend, don't apologize.
Oh, why are you the
Camden is so take to parking, man. I don't even understand. Like, but I was like,
well.
I remember just seeing you perform and just wanting to say hi. Do you know what I mean? And taking that time, do you see what I mean? And that's one of my earliest memories. And I told you to hold yours, but I'm interested now to like what your early memory. And I don't know where, because boy, I was probably wearing plimsolls them days. I don't even know what the style was saying. It was atrocious.
I think all of us dressed like, I probably still dress like a poet now, but it was the era of like big wooden beads, and we all dressed like Alan Kamara,
I think
basically.
I even had like a flat cap. Oh my God, the vibes.
I probably had like a beret or something going on. And it was the era of like wooden chains that had like a medallion. I remember I had like a wooden chain that had like a wooden like mic.
I got like enough beads up to like, So what was that for you?
My earliest, so I remember being on YouTube and listening to your cover of Forgiveness.
Okay.
I think it was Forgiveness.
Yeah,
Did
it was
you do
Forgiveness.
That?
It was a Wretch Free 2 cover.
Yeah. Asking for forgiveness. That one. But my earliest memory of you performing, and all of us, I think, sharing a stage, and I remember just feeling so honoured to share a stage with like you. It was you, George, Anthony Naxaguru, I think Lion, maybe Sully, and me. And I just remember always wanting to share a stage with you guys, because I think at this point it hadn't happened yet. I'd seen you guys, I knew who you were, but I hadn't, like, no one had said like, she's ready for a lineup with these guys. And I remember I went on stage and I performed this God knows what poem about God knows what. I do remember it was about finding out. It wasn't even my story, not even close to my story, but it was about finding out someone that was close to, maybe even my brother, was selling drugs. And I'm basically trying to say, like, you don't need to live this way. Like, you don't need a life on the road. And when I think about my brother now, and just the fact that was never his life, is actually quite funny. But I remember being really proud of that poem. And I remember I was somewhere tucked into the lineup, but it felt like the first time I was sparring with gladiators as well. I can't remember what anyone performed, but it was an era of spoken word being extremely impassioned. Like, I don't think anyone was doing love poems that I remember at the time. I don't remember anyone speaking about like just day-to-day things. It was politics, it was like war, it was societal stuff, it was race, and it was just so charged. Like, I'm so happy that was the decade I started doing poetry as well, because I think it just informed like so much of what I care about now. I
don't know if that comes back, but that's a contentious thing. We'll talk on it. I don't know if that specific era of it and the freeness of that comes back in the same way. And I guess in talking to you about performance later, it'll be dope to explore what that was like a bit further. Do you remember your entry to writing and like storytelling?
I remember, do you remember Nasiah?
Yes, I do.
Okay, so him and Mikel played a really big role. So I was on YouTube. I always had like big emotions. So I think I always needed to write something anyway. And I didn't have the form of poetry at the time. I just felt a lot. And then I discovered Def Jam poetry on YouTube.
Right.
And I remember thinking, this is a really cool crossover of like, it's not theatre, but it's not rap, it's not like prose. Like, what is it? But I remember feeling really comfortable in that intersection, but I'd never tried it. And then I like rinsed all of the Def Jam poetry performances. Like, I had seen them all so many times. And then one day I went to this community event in my area, and Nasiah was on a panel, and he's basically introduced himself as like a spoken word artist. And I remember thinking, I've watched all of the Def Jam performances, and I've never come across this guy. So he just can't be a spoken word artist. I didn't know spoken word existed outside Def Jam poetry. I thought like all of football was like the Champions League, and that was it basically. I had no idea that it was a genre. So afterwards I went up to him and I was like, what do you mean you're a spoken word artist? I haven't seen you. And he just blew my mind. He was like, oh my dear, like come walk with me into this world of spoken word and poetry. And he introduced me to Mikel, who got me on my first stage, I think. And my first or second stage, I think my first stage was in school, where there was a poetry competition, and they were basically like, write a poem about something or the other. And I remember writing this really impassioned piece about the civil rights movement. And I didn't really go to that kind of school. So I remember performing it to my parents, and they were just like, yeah, you're not performing that. Like, there's no way. So anyway, I went on stage and I performed it and I won the competition. And my dad was not happy about it. And I remember coming off stage, and the head of English OCR happened to be at that event. And she came up to me, and they obviously control the syllabus for the exams. And she's come up to me and she's just singing my praises. So obviously at that point, there's nothing my parents could really say, because they're like, if she likes it, if she writes the curriculum, like, give me something here, you know? So I think that was one of the first times, but it was actually, it was an event in Barnet somewhere in the theatre, and Mikel was like to me, do you want instrumentalist with your performance? And I was like, yeah, like just a drummer. That's it. And obviously it's such a weird setup now I think about it. But I think also there's something symbolic about like entering with the drum as well. And I did this cover of Jesus Walks. So the drummer basically started with like dun, 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 dun. And I came on like, that was the beat that rose like the heat. And it was so dead. It was so probably, like, I probably thought it was sick at the time, but looking back, it was probably so dead. But I remember just loving how I felt. I remember just loving how comfortable I was. And I wouldn't say I was ever like a shy kid, but I wasn't like the loud one in my friendship group. I wasn't like the most confident in my friendship group. But I just remember being on that stage and thinking, I really like how I feel right now. And that was my entry into it all. And
it's funny because, of course, you worked with music over time, whereas like when I first performed, it was with music. And I was so annoyed because everyone they weren't listening to what I was saying.
Just bobbing their heads.
I was like, I'm saying some real serious stuff.
I just want to dance.
And people just bobbing their heads. And I was just like, all right, cool. I'm not performing to music again. So
really?
I totally didn't perform to music for like a whole year.
Interesting.
And literally just worked in carving my voice as melody to a certain degree to kind of see what that felt like.
Interesting.
Until I then felt like, all right, cool. It's time to kind of kick into gear with music again. That's when I started to kind of work with the Remedies and then the live band and everything. So I didn't even know this. You was with music from like the jump type thing.
I mean, barely. It was just a drum, but yeah, I think so. But then it got really just vocal led after that.
Yeah.
But I also think that era of events, there would always sometimes just be a live band places as well. Yeah. But yeah, it was, I think the early stages were just voice, because I remember when I first put something on SoundCloud and I was so nervous for the exact same reason you didn't want to do it with music, because I remember thinking it's going to take away from these, like, at the time I was like, it's going to take away from these like crazy bars that I'm saying, and it probably should have, to be honest. Now I think back to the stuff I was writing, but I remember just not wanting to put anything online, because I was like, no, like the only way to consume me is to sit in the audience and hear no music and no nothing and just what I'm saying. Like, it's quite indulgent really when I think about it, but it was a real fear, like actually stepping over that and being like, actually, piano can like really deliver the message with me as well. Like guitar can really bring it out a lot more. And then eventually I got comfortable putting stuff on YouTube, but it took time.
In creating your landscape, you know, growing up in this, I went to various open mics over time. And it's weird because people access spoken word in different ways, or the community in different ways. There's definitely the nights that you can go to, but also I know around that time the ACSs were popping off. Them ACSs were going off.
Yeah.
So
it's like my bread and butter in uni.
So to a certain degree, if I'm not seeing like Sully at like an open mic night, Sully's definitely doing a type of open mic night in Nottingham, and he's totally accessing all the universities. So which was interesting because around that time it seemed as if there was different landscapes in which you can cultivate audiences and build on that as like your targeted audience. And was that something that was intentional for you at the time? Because there were some open mic nights that you was definitely doing your thing, and so was I, and so were all these other people, but we wouldn't necessarily be in the same room unless if someone like Charlie Boy, if he does the vocals and verses, for example, shout out Ben, shout out Charlie Boy, all the way. But if he's doing something like that where these worlds end up meeting, so in terms of building landscape, were you kind of tuning into the ACSs and building audiences and getting them to kind of tune into your work from that point?
I think I must have been, because sometimes I'm bumping into people now and they're like, oh, you came and performed at my uni in like 2000 and whatever. But what's interesting is I really struggled with ACS performances because I think there was a type of, it was in, poets would be invited into not necessarily a poetry show, but into an entertainment night. Right? So we would be amongst like comedians, singers, rappers, maybe dancers, you know.
That life. Yo, I don't know if you understand that life. Where it's a night where people are coming for vibes.
They're dressed up, they're to the nines. They actually don't want to hear about the things that I would go and perform at SOAS. Do you know what I mean? So I actually really struggled, like, because my poetry, it wasn't like punchlines, it wasn't, I think there's things that I could do now that would maybe translate a bit better, but at the time I just wanted to talk about like really serious stuff, and people are dressing up and they're pre-drinking before they come to this event. They actually don't want to hear about it.
And the thing, I don't think people understand that the mode of comedians, that was their
Mecca.
Them.
That's their holy grail.
We're having to actually go up after the mode of comedians,
it's not easy.
The Babatundes, all the guys that you see on TV now, we would have to often be the poet that's then invited on stage to read this deep poem after people have been laughing for the last 10 minutes, and then then in comes the poet, and then you just see people just staring at you.
Such a setup.
It was such a setup. I'll look at each promoter and be like, you come to me again.
Let me open or let me close, or put me after like someone sad. I don't know.
But then it's almost like that. In a way, I look back to them days, and I don't know if you can agree, but those were the hard knocks where if you can go up again after someone like a Cynthia Erivo.
Right.
You know, if you can go up after someone like that and have audiences stare at you blankly and still do what you are intending to do, then you're good.
You're building muscle. You're building muscle,
Hench.
You're like, like you're working out like how to navigate different crowds. And I would never take back from those years at all, because I think I learned so much about audiences and what I like and don't like. But also I do feel like now you could put, like when I was in DC and I was performing, DC, it's just like the ACS. Like people are dressing up and they're pre-drinking and they're drinking at the event. Like the icebreakers before the poetry starts in DC are drinking games. So by the time you've started, and let's say you're headlining, everyone's like very jolly, everyone's loud. In DC, they'll stop you in the middle of the performance and be like, say that back again, British girl, say that back again, run it back, cook poet. And it was just like the ACS. So I feel like if I kind of went in without having those years of experience, I would have been like, guys, let me finish. And I would have just ruined the whole vibe, you know? I think, it was building muscle.
You are sharing a poem with us, and I've coined it. I don't know if people are going to pick up on it, man. I'm like, apples and snakes crunching into the poem. This kind of seems like my own thing that I don't know is caught on.
Go
Do you know
on,
what I mean?
Bible.
Do you
Let's
see what I'm
go.
trying to say? But you brought something to share with us and also with the audience. And I don't know if you're good to kind of go and then we talk on the piece a bit more after.
Yeah. Sure.
So as and when you're ready.
Okay. If there is breath, there is choice. In my mouth lives a voice. When it shakes, it is strong. When it breaks, I carry on. I am strong, I am wise, I am brave, I am bright, I am studied, I am read. In my mind, I invest. I can think, I can pause. Take control of my thoughts. I choose what should stay. What I water, it will grow. What I starve, it will leave. I choose how I live. I choose how I don't. I walk in the direction of the future that I want. I am strong, I am brave for this path that is paved. I have everything I need to succeed every day. I have God, I have light, I have love, I have might. I am growing to the light, so I am fine when it rains. I change through the night. I bloom as I speak, and there are verses I read, and they say, do not let your hearts be troubled. And do not be afraid. Just give your worries and your cares up to the Lord. And trust me, things will be okay. Such a nice sound. Thank you.
Do you mind? This is the room for you to get as geeky as possible in relation to this poem in particular. Why share this poem?
I think.
And what's the title? Sorry.
Affirmations.
Affirmations.
Yeah. I think when you're young, so much of what we're built of now happens when we're young. And I think so much of what we were built on was affirmation. From a young age, there's someone like congratulating you. Well done, you took a first step. Well done, you like picked up a piece of broccoli. You're built on confidence. Your self-esteem is built on things that are affirmative to you, affirming you. And then even throughout school, like school is a practice of affirmation, really. You study, you get grades, and you feel good about it, and your confidence comes from that place. And then you become an adult, and like no one's affirming you anymore. Or maybe like your friends are, and maybe someone who's in love with you is. But actually, a lot of the time, you go about your day, and your salary is your only affirmation. And we find different things that give us value, and we place our value in different things. And I think as I've gotten older, I've realized that it is so important for me to learn what feeds me and be able to give it to myself. I'm a words of affirmation. I think everyone is like in some way a words of affirmation person, but I'm a big words of affirmation girly. Like if I don't hear it, I don't believe it. And obviously that plays out in relationships in funny ways sometimes, but I think I'm also a writer and a poet. So I think they probably swim in the same world. And I realized that it's also such a risky game if my value and my confidence on a bad day or my self-esteem on a bad day is built on whether someone has told me that I've done well today, or if someone has told me that I look good today, or if someone has told me they're proud of me. If I am built off that, if my whole museum is built on someone else's words, it's very dangerous. It's very risky, because what happens on days where that person's having a bad day that used to be my value pot? What happens when I just have to go out at things alone? Like when I was in New York and I was completely solo for a very long time, I had to learn a lot about where my confidence comes from. And there was a week I was having a really, really hard time, and I just remember looking everywhere to try and feel better. I remember trying to listen to like every kind of podcast, from like the Christian podcast to like the get up, get ready, get into it, like you're a machine, like gym podcast. I remember like I was listening to anything that would just feel like it would lift my spirit. I was doing worship, I was praying, I was going over Bible verses. And during that time, I realized I can affirm myself, but if I don't believe the things I'm even saying to myself, I have a big problem. So when I wrote affirmations, I wrote it and I recited it, and I recite it to myself like gospel. And I think I've gotten to a point now where I believe it when I say it. Like when I say my mind is my home, I take things in, I let them go, I'm host of my home. I'm telling myself these things and I'm believing them. And I think it's really easy to tell people like, just like wake up in the morning and say, I am loved, I am good, I am blessed. But actually I'm realizing the more you say these things and put emotion behind them, something is actually happening in your brain scientifically that is making your mind, body and heart believe this thing. Like affirmation isn't just like a whimsical like feel-good thing that is like the zeitgeist of today's generation. No, it really is rewiring something in your body. And that's the reason why in so many religions and so many spiritual practices, we talk about I am. You know, we declare things over our life, whether it's Islam, whether it's Christianity, Judaism, Sikhism, Buddhism, all of like a lot of the new school religions as well. Self-affirmation is coined as a spiritual thing and a practice, and it really is. And I'm learning it, and I'm learning the power of it, and I'm learning how important it is to have that in my toolkit as well as a young woman, as a person going through life, especially in the public eye, especially on stage. It just feels too dangerous to leave my confidence to whether I hear it or not from other people.
That's incredible. And I'm in thinking about this poem in particular, I always wonder when the poem, where does it come from? Do you know what I mean? Some people kind of just sit down and be like, all right, yo, I'm gonna spend this whole day and I'm gonna bang out these poems and nothing comes. You'd be there cleaning your desk and nothing coming through from nowhere. You'd be like, all right, cool, let me go make some tea to see what's going on. Go for a walk. You've led us to kind of know how this poem arrived, but I'm really, and this is really tapping into the spirit, so to speak now, because I do think they come in different ways and they arrive in different ways. How did this particular poem, was there a line or was there something to kind of like arrive at a point for you to be like, oh, okay, let me trust in this and see where it's going? Definitely you had the affirmation thought process happening, but was there something that kind of filtered its way that kind of like lightly just tapped you and just be like, oh, hey. And then from there, that you just went on with?
That's a really good question, because you're right. Sometimes they do just arrive. I think the first two lines, if there is breath, there is choice. In my mouth lives a voice. When it shakes, it is strong. When it breaks, I carry on. I remember that all coming out in one go, and it was because it's what I needed to hear. I remember that studio session so clearly because it's a song. It's actually just like, it's probably out by the time this comes out, but I was struggling with some things at the time. I was trying to figure out who I was when I was just someone's girlfriend, or who I was when I was just a poet, when I was just a daughter. And I was actually really grappling with value, I think, actually. I was really grappling with where I get my sense of self-worth from. And I was defeated by that battle, if I'm honest. And one thing I really had to keep telling myself is, this can't be the end of my feeling. This can't be the end of my thought, because I can't stay down here. And I think what just arrived in my head was, if there is still breath in my body, there is still a chance to change something. If there is still breath in my body, I can still change my mind. I can still control my mind. The mind is it's a delicate thing, but it's a powerful thing. And it can be molded, and it can be changed, and it can be reshaped. And I just remember that first line, like, if there is breath, there is choice. It's something I just kept telling myself, like, I'm still here, I can still change things. I'm still here, I can still believe something different for myself. I'm still here, I can still have a different future. Tomorrow can still be different. The next hour can still be different. I can still find confidence in this space. And I think it just became a stream of things I really wanted myself to believe. I wanted to believe that I was brave. I wanted to believe that I was strong. I wanted to believe that I control my mind. And I have a very active imagination. And it makes sometimes the writing process an incredible thing, because I've seen the whole story in my head. And I'm basically just printing what's here to here, and the refining happens afterwards. I don't really edit and write at the same time. I think they're very different processes, but because I have such a vivid visual imagination, the writing process never really takes that long. But what that also means is having such an active imagination where my mind is against me, it's not a nice place. It's not a very positive place. So I think when I was writing affirmations, I wasn't writing it from a place of salvation. I wasn't writing it because I was sat in this space of, okay, I've recovered from something, so I'm just going to write what I needed to get through. I needed to hear the things that I was writing. I needed to believe the things that I was writing. So it kind of came out with a teardrop, if I'm honest. Like, I am brave, I am strong, I am smart, I do control my mind. Like, I will be okay, I will be okay, I will be okay. So it almost came out as a plea to myself, I think, in terms of that writing process, I guess it would be more similar to a journal entry than like a crafted piece of work. I think finding the rhythm and the cadence came afterwards. But in terms of like the actual flow of it, I needed to hear these things and I needed to be the one to say them so that I believe it from me.
Is there a line in the poem that you're like, you lot don't know what I done here? There's always, we always, as writers, we always have a line that some folks just, they're not ready for what we just done here, man. Like you yourself internally, you're like, cha, I don't know if they'll get this, boy, but yo. And if there is, this is the moment to highlight to the levels of your excitement of this one line or whatever it is. And like, what is, if there is, that's it. If there is that line, would you want to, like, would you mind sharing that and tell us your excitement about that line?
Yomi, I think I have to disappoint the question.
Ooh.
I think I have to disappoint the question. I think...
Go for it.
Because the intention when I was writing was something so simple that I could just tell myself day in, day out, and then something so simple that people could hold and understand and grasp so quickly. I don't think I tried to do anything clever. I don't think there was an effort towards that. I think all of my effort was actually in making something so matter of fact that it didn't need to like be caught or understood. And it feels so disappointing saying that, but I think it was okay that was the intention of this piece in particular.
100%. And going back to what you're talking about in terms of like, you're expecting this punchline. I'm not a punchline poet, personally. So if you're looking for something like that for me, go next door. You won't catch that here.
Find Lionheart somewhere
in
the mix.
Find them man there. With all due respect as well. But I think in you saying that, I don't even think it's a disappointment because I think the whole poem stands in power.
Thank you.
And I think we find those lines and it sits in, especially when the home one, I think we sit in that as the listener or the reader in understanding what the poem stands for. So I'll always throw the question out to the guests, but I think there's honesty and transparency in how you also answer that as well. Let's get into performance of it.
Okay.
Even in, I don't know, in my years of watching you on that stage, if you got to like Saul Williams level of like going above a certain,
and the height of it.
There's great skill. This is my argument, and I'm so like biased to like performance because people always try to talk about page and writing and you have to kind of craft it. But there's also as much craft in performance.
100%.
On that mic as there is writing on that page. Like in even listening to you perform this poem, the breath control, the kind of like pacing, the rhythm, it's there, it's a skill.
Thank you.
It can't be denied. And that skill and that voice is iconic to you. And I'm really keen to know, was it an intentional decision to hold this level of voice control, projection, and cadence in your delivery? Like, what is that? Where, at what point did you be like, yo, am I gonna be slam poet?
I'm gonna put a mic on a stand now.
Yeah. At what point is it like, am I gonna be like slam poet entry with this? Do you know, like I call it the roller coaster vibe? You kind of come in ease.
Come in hot,
Not even hot. It's just like slow. And then you get to that tipping point and then the poet goes off.
Okay.
Is what I've ever seen in like slams, especially US slams, where it gets so intense.
Theatre,
It becomes something. And you were like, actually, no, we're going to actually calmly go through this whole process. Even at the best, most kind of like intense in your poetry, it still maintains a specific pacing and volume. When did you realize that this is the vibes?
That's a really good question. Well, when I started, when I was like 16, 17, I was a completely different performer. I think I've always had a soft voice, but I was up and down the stage. I was like shouting. I was using my whole body. I didn't know what a mic stand was.
What?
Did not know what a mic stand was.
I feel like I need to see a clip of this.
Like when I was young, I was up and down the place and I was a very, very different performer. But I think the things that I was talking about as well, that seemed like the only approach, to those things at the time as well. When did it change? I think, okay, so it changed before I went to India, because I remember India being a very significant, it felt very validating.
Yeah.
I went from being quite up and down the stage and quite loud and quite vocal to very much retracting, is what I would say, in my performance. And I think the ACS performances definitely took me down that route, because I actually feel like I had to, and it's funny because I remember Lionheart had me write a poem about this exact feeling of feeling like I'm having to write with the audience in mind now, because I'm doing these ACS performances and having to like try to be funny and try to have punchlines and talk about like dates and whatever it might be. I felt myself kind of do this. And I think that was probably one of the reasons why I did this. But then once I did arrive there and it was just me and a standing mic, I realised how much I loved it. I realised how much I loved the idea of an intimate performance. I realised that if you speak quieter, people listen more. Like people have to lean in. And I really enjoyed actually, I know what changed it. It was writing a book. It was writing a book that changed it. Because when you're writing for the page, every single word is important. Whereas when you're writing for stage, I don't need to find the words to raise my voice. I don't need to find the words to like do a line break. I can just do it. Do you know what I mean? Whereas on the page, you have to find the craft to do that. And I had never done that before. Like writing I wasn't even necessarily reading poetry books as much when I was young at all, in fact, until I was writing one. And I think then going from performing the things that were in the book, I realized that if I've paid so much attention to every single word, like the shouting's already happened, but I can do it from here. I can do it from this volume. So I think that definitely like brought me inward a lot more. And then I went to India. And also I think when I did start to perform a lot more calmly, or at least more like on one mic and softer and a lot more, I guess, floaty, maybe you could say, I realized that it also opened different doors as well. I realized that slam poetry can be in loads of spaces, but in the spaces I wanted to get into, like fashion, commercial spaces, corporate spaces for a season of my life as well, the way that they receive a message is when it's spoken like this. They don't necessarily receive a message when it was how I used to perform, or like sometimes how I still perform if I'm honest, but it wasn't received in that same environment that I wanted to be in. So I think that was also something that kind of had me double down. And then I went to India. And just before I went to India, there was a lot of things going on in the female speaking space. Everyone was shouting. Like it was the era of people saying like, shouty women are taking the stage right now. And I remember feeling really out of place. I remember my nan has always said to me, she used to write, and she has always said to me, never aim to offend, only aim to educate and inspire. And she said that to me ever since I was young. So I've never wanted to come on stage and trigger people. I've never wanted to come on stage since that age of realization anyway. And I think in any revolution, there's so many different approaches an artist has to take. Some people have to trigger people into change, and we need them. Some people have to convict people into change, and we need them. I feel like the role I play in transforming whatever it is I'm trying to transform at the time is one of an empath, and actually walking people through a slow story, and hopefully in that way building a bridge between two people, more so than triggering someone or convicting someone in a more heightened way. I actually want people to come and sit down and cross-legged hear what I'm saying, and then change whatever it is that needs to be changed. So I think going into commercial spaces definitely doubled that down. But then I went to India. And so I went to India after this wave of actually women getting a lot louder. And I remember feeling really out of place. I remember thinking, oh my gosh, am I going to have to like change my approach? I feel like I'm taking too gentle approach to get anything done right now in comparison to the way that other people are addressing things. And then I went to India, and obviously India, like misogynoir and misogyny, and it's such a patriarchal society. So the women that were on stage during this festival, Kolkata Book Festival, were just very demure, very, very demure, very no matter what they were saying, they could be saying the most revolutionary, powerful, hard-hitting thing. They were saying it like this. They were saying it very gently, very, very softly. But what they were saying was so pertinent and so sharp and so intelligent. And I just remember thinking, maybe it's okay, actually, to address things like this. And when I think of all of my cultures, my dad's half Indian, my mum's half Sri Lankan, and they're both half Gambian. And the way that the women operate in Sri Lanka and India, and again, probably not for all of the best reasons, it's a very soft power, it's a very gentle power. And in Gambia, the griots, like our version of storytelling, is people sitting around with kora players and you're in the compound and the person is telling you a story the same way I'm telling you a story right now. Those are the cultures I come from. I don't come from... So I think it's in me. I think I was always going to arrive at this point, and that's not to say I'm always at this level. Like you said, I am a roller coaster sometimes. I have poems where actually I pop off in the middle, and that's all part of it. But for where I am right now, anyway, I'm enjoying this space. I'm enjoying like seeing how intimate and delicate I can get with such a sharp and strong message. And maybe that will change. When I was in New York, I watched it change. When I was at all of these slams, I watched it change. I watched my performance become a lot more bodily. I watched myself break out of like such a calm cadence. I watched myself get louder, bigger, wider, and I loved it. Like it's very seductive watching yourself grow. It's very seductive watching yourself become louder. So I think I definitely flirt between the two. But I think, I like this gentle space that I feel like it's a world that I invite people into, and I think they come.
Before we get into your poetry, of your poem of choice, because we also have a video that we're going to watch, or a poem that we're going to hear and experience. Would you consider yourself a seasoned poet? Because if you're seasoned, I'm damn near pan fried right now, boy. I'm like archaic. I'm into like dust. That's my situation right now. So with all that experience, and I think there's a member in the audience that was just like, I remember just like seeing you. And you know, with them first lines, I remember seeing you. It was like, raw, like...
Makes you feel old and rubbed.
It makes you... If you feel old and rubbed, I am archaic. So would you consider yourself to be a seasoned poet in this right now?
When I compare the expectation that I have of my pen in 10 years compared to now, if I listen back to this in 10 years and heard myself say I was a seasoned poet at this stage, I'd probably laugh. I would like to laugh at that point. I'm not going to take away from the fact that I have been on stage for a very long time and there's things I've figured out, and there's definitely things on stage I've worked out and continue to work out, but I feel like seasoned is finished and I'm definitely not there. Like my expectation of myself in terms of growth and expansion and just craft is so high. I very much feel like a student of the craft, and I love that. It's an adventure. Like I see it as, I never kind of want to look at myself and be like, you've done your 10,000 hours and you've completed this. I love it too much to be anything but a student of it. And I think about it like a musician. If someone has been playing the piano for 101 years, but they've been playing classical, they might be seasoned in classical piano, but let's take them to the jazz stage. Do you know what I mean? Let's see how they fare there. And I want to explore myself when I'm just studying like the way Arabic poets write, when I'm just studying the way that Gambian poets write, when I'm studying the way that Sudanese writers write. I want to learn so much. Like and with music as well. I think there's so many layers of myself I'm yet to find and discover. So I think there's areas of my life or performance that I think I figured out, but in comparison to what I hope to learn, I feel like a speck in the ocean of my seasoning, to be honest.
And that's so true. My years I spent in this, there's still so much more to do, right? I went to Trinidad earlier this year as part of Bocas Lit Festival, and I met some of the poets there, and the slam competition, and it's out of this world.
I can imagine.
Like they have VTs before they come out. They got theatrics happening on stage before they perform. And I was like, this is just one speck of just like what is happening in the world, or how they are fusing their poetry with entertainment and make it an event as opposed to just like a poetry event. It's an actual event. So in that stage, you're still forever just learning in this space. So I really appreciate your response to that. All right, so you bought a video, or we asked you which poetry video that you return to that inspires you, and we're gonna look at that together.
Okay.
Would you mind just talking a bit about why this particular poem before we kind of kick into gear?
Yeah, this was one of the first Def Jam poetry performances I ever watched.
Yeah.
And I just remember, I remember thinking, one, Mos Def was just mad cool.
Yeah.
He was just this chill guy that would bring Lauryn Hill on stage to do a poem, or like Kanye when he was like normal and whatever else. He's going through some things right now, man. Long live him, though. I think he's going through something, and I hope he comes out of it. But yeah, and I just remember watching this performance and the style of performance, the body of it all, the passion, what he was saying. I just remember being so taken aback. And honestly speaking, I haven't watched it in so long, I can't even remember what it's about, if I'm honest. But I just remember, I still, like, even thinking about it now, I still remember how inspired I was by the style of performance and by someone coming on stage and finishing their poem by saying, like, knock, knock, who's there? We are. Yeah, like, I remember that
Bad
feeling. Like, yeah, I just remember
Bad boy poem.
I just remember feeling.
I got geeky with me for a minute there.
No, it's epic. It's such an iconic piece, and he's right. Like, we are, here we are, here we are. And I remember feeling it and feeling convicted, and it just, it changed something in me. It informed, it changed the root of some of my thinking, especially as a young woman, or like I think probably a teenager when I was watching it. It just, I felt like it just put a fire in my spine, and I just remember loving it. I don't even know what it's about now, but I just remember loving it.
I don't know how many poets writing around that time used Def Poetry Jam as a template. I will still hope that some do now. I remember Saul's poem with the scroll. That was like, yo, where are we going? And he just kept going. And I think those entry points into like kind of whether it is theatrics or whether it is performance and the different styles of it. So I will still go back to certain videos from time to time and just be like, yo, this was at the core of people performing. So let's get into this poem and let's talk on it after.
All right.
As a boy, I shared a game with my father. Played it every morning till I was 3. He would knock on my door and I'd pretend to be asleep till he got right next to the bed. Then I would get up and jump into his arms. Good morning, Papa. And my papa, he would tell me that he loved me. We shared a game, knock, knock. Until that day when the knock never came. And my mama takes me on a ride past cornfields on this never-ending highway till we reach a place of high, rusty gates. A confused little boy, I enter the building carried in my mama's arms. Knock, knock. We reach a room of windows and brown faces. Behind one of the windows sits my father. I jump out of my mama's arms and run joyously towards my papa's, only to be confronted by this window. I knock, knock, trying to break through the glass, trying to get to my father. I knock, knock as my mama pulls me away before my papa even says a word. And for years he has never said a word. And so 25 years later I write these words for the little boy in me who still awaits his papa's knock. Papa, come home because I miss you. Miss you waking me up in the morning and telling me you love me. Papa, come home because there's things I don't know and I thought maybe you could teach me. How to shave, how to dribble a ball, how to talk to a lady, how to walk like a man. Papa, come home because I decided a while back I want to be just like you. But I'm forgetting who you are. And 25 years later, a little boy cries, and so I write these words and try to heal and try to father myself, and I dream up a father who says the words my father did not. Dear son, I'm sorry I never came home. For every lesson I failed to teach, hear these words. Shave in one direction with strong, deliberate strokes to avoid irritation. Dribble the page with the brilliance of your ballpoint pen. Walk like a god, and your goddess will come to you. No longer will I be there to knock on your door, so you must learn to knock for yourself. Knock, knock down doors of racism and poverty that I could not. Knock, knock on doors of opportunity for the lost brilliance of the black men who crowd these cells. Knock, knock with diligence for the sake of your children. Knock, knock for me, for as long as you are free, these prison gates cannot contain my spirit. spirit. The best of me still lives in you. Knock, knock with the knowledge that you are my son, but you are not my choices. Yes, we are our father's sons and daughters, but we are not their choices. But despite their absences, we are still here, still alive, still breathing, with the power to change this world, one little boy and girl at a time. Knock, knock, who's there? We are.
Oh my gosh. Oh my gosh. Ooh.
Poem is wild.
Everything about that performance and that poem I'm in love with.
This poem is really interesting because Daniel Beaty, by the way, knock knock. Because we kind of need to consider the structure in which how the poet invites us in. And I always question, would I feel what I feel if that intensity was not
with the story?
With the story. And that's always an interesting. I'm on the fence with it because I feel like it requires that type of intensity in order to really drive home what is going on. What was your thoughts?
Yeah, I agree. I think it's nice to take people places, and I think so much right now. I think I'm actually overwhelmed by watching the poem. Put it together, man. We have context. We have this idea of him as a young boy, and then we know the feeling of what it might feel like to raise yourself in some ways. Even if you've grown up with both parents, there are some things we're going to have to address right now that our parents have never gone through. So there are things that we're raising ourselves, and everyone can relate to that. And what's so interesting is I almost think storytelling in poetry, like really starting from the beginning, like the once upon a time, is being forgotten. And the reason I say that is because of social media. I think we're not given 5 minutes of people's attention to take them on like a journey anymore. We're given 0.5 of a second to grab people's attention with a punchline. And I remember the shift so clearly when we all started to come onto Instagram. And I remember everyone trying to figure it out, everyone trying to figure out what works, what doesn't. And I think what was so beautiful about just being on, and I think what is still so beautiful about just being on stage and knowing that you have your audience for the next 15, 20, an hour, whatever it is that you're allowed to take them on this journey.
Yeah.
You're allowed to introduce them to you as a child. You're allowed to introduce them to the things that made you. I've got a poem called Love Languages, and the whole first maybe 3 minutes of the poem, I'm talking about how my love languages come from the fact that my mum speaks life into everything. She can speak life into a dead thing, you know, like she's got a Lazarus power about her. And then about how my brother, and that's why words of affirmation is my love language. And then I speak about my brother and the things that were poured into him by my dad and why that informs how he is loved now. And maybe a few minutes into the poem, I then get into being in love with someone who cannot speak the same love language of me as me, but I was allowed and afforded this whole run-up time that I think just added context to. It's like when you read a book, sometimes the whole first half of a book is setting the scene. Like when I think about like Half a Yellow Sun, for example, I remember first reading it when I was a lot younger, and I didn't know what the book was about. I just knew everyone around me had read it, and it seemed like a sensible thing to read. The first half of the book and the second half of the book are different books, like complete different books. I didn't know it went in to talk about the things that it spoke about. I didn't know that it was speaking on that time in Nigerian history. But I had context, you know, I was allowed so much context. And I could relate to the characters so much more because I'd seen their love story, I'd seen their upbringing, and I think that's the beautiful thing about spoken word. And I think watching this has just reminded me of why I love the art form so much, because you just get to go on stage and give this monologue and give people context and rise and fall, or maybe just rise and not fall, or maybe just like fall the whole time. And it is theatre and it is rap and it is poetry, but it's just in this like 5-minute segment where when I go to slams in New York, for example, it's a whirlwind. It's like 3 minutes, and inside those 3 minutes there's just these strong, potent, emotive stories and messages, and it's one after the other, after the other, after the other, and you leave and it's like, I've been to so many in my day, but I still leave and I'm like, I can't believe this is an art form.
Yeah.
I can't believe this is a thing that I get to participate in and offer something to. And I remember I took my friend Chelsea to her first poetry slam in New York, and I remember she was just like, what is this? Like, what is this? For 3 minutes, you've got your heart in your chest, and then the MC comes on and you're joking and laughing, and then for another 3 minutes, you're like, your heart's in your neck, or you're on the brink of something, like you're on the edge of your seat in the brink of an emotion, and it's just such a great art form. I just love it so much.
I want to sneak a question in. I'm mindful of time as well. Thank you, by the way. When thinking about performance now, with the kind of influx of publishing houses signing up performance poets, spoken word artists, what have you, do you feel like it's changing the landscape? Because at one point, and I'll be honest with you, when I was performing back in the day, I wasn't thinking about a book.
Yeah,
I was just thinking about when this poem was going to be written and how I'm going to get on the next stage to share this poem.
Right.
So where do you sit with that now as an industry that's kind of like signing up artists now? And do you feel like the performance is changing, or do you feel like it still holds its own for where that is?
I think... I think there will always be a necessity and stage for spoken word completely untouched,
right?
Completely raw, completely as it was. Not because I think there's an effort to keep it, but because I think it's actually a very natural journey of an emotion towards a thing. I think if someone's talking about like fatherlessness, for example, I think no matter what happens in publishing houses, there's going to be an urgency for it to come out in that exact way. There's going to be an urgency for it to come out in emotion, in rage, in self-motivation, in self-inspiration, in hope. I think like they say, nothing new happens under the sun, and to a degree, I do agree. I think as long as there's going to be love, there's going to be poets. As long as there's going to be fatherlessness, there's going to be rage. As long as there's like politics or like disenfranchisement or oppression, there's going to be anger, there's going to be hope. So I think there's always going to be spoken word in its form, because I think that's how these things come out naturally. Where if those things have the main stage during every season of like civilization, I don't know. I think right now there's like, especially in New York, there's so much spoken word because everyone's angry.
Yeah.
So I think if there's a season where maybe everyone's not angry and politics just happens to be calm and everyone's happy, spoken word will probably change as well. Like, I think it will change. I think it's nice that they're taking like spoken word artists to the page, because I think you do have a school of readers that want to read it that way, you know, and don't want to necessarily read like da-da-da-da-da cat, da-da-da-da-da Matt, da-da-da-da-da Ben's, da-da-da-da-da hens or whatever. You have people that maybe just want to read a whole poetic essay on page, and that's like me. Like, I prefer to consume poetry in that way more so. And that's maybe a cultural thing as well, because when I think about Arabic literature, when I think about a lot of French literature, it's very different from from English prose as well, just how it's formed on the page. It's more similar to spoken word. It's more similar to somewhat conversational form than what we're taught in school, is what I would say. I think similar to you, I didn't ever imagine writing a book, let alone 4. It just wasn't an ambition of mine. It wasn't, I just wanted to be on stage. That was it. I just wanted to perform. But I think, and it was actually Sully that said it to me, he was like, a book is a passport. He was like, you can't bring every single person into the world in one room with you at one given time, but you can put a book anywhere in the world and you can be there with them. And that shifted it in my head massively. It was like, actually, maybe my book will be my passport that goes before me, and then I'm booked out in these places, then I get to go on stage in those places, and that's what happened. Yeah.
I got some questions from the live audience. Audience is still with us?
Yeah.
Okay, one of the questions I'm going to ask, I can't go through all of them, so please don't run me out of this place today. Respect. How has your faith shaped your journey? And I'm going to add this one to it as well. At what point would you say a poem is complete? So, however brief, just to kind of enter that, because I've got 2 more for you, and then you are free.
I think a poem will kind of tell you when to just leave it alone, to be honest. Like, let me go, release me. I think when you've made your point, that's what I've kind of learned, because I can overcook a point. In conversation, I can make the same point 150 times and still not think it's enough times, like just in case they don't get it. I think what I've learned is, like, once you've made your point, you've made it. Done. You know, like, you've made it. However colourfully you've made it. So I think that's probably when I judge if a poem is finished, is my intention for it complete. Let me step away from it. You can keep writing, but let me step away from it. And how much does my faith inform my poetry? I think massively. I think if I didn't have the relationship I have with God, I probably wouldn't write, because my purpose is very attached to that. I think my purpose with poetry and with writing is to connect people to each other and to themselves. And I think that's why I do enjoy doing commercial work with poetry as well, because I think it can trigger an emotion that people might not come across in their day-to-day, consuming like a Nike advert or consuming like a Calvin Klein advert. You might not be emotionally invested, but you bring poetry into the mix and suddenly people are, you know. And I think, knowing that my purpose is to connect people to each other or to themselves, I can't remove that from the practice. Yeah. I think there's things that I do because I do sports, for example, and I do them to be healthy and forever else, but I do poetry because I feel like I'm being told to. I feel like every single part of my personality and character is very intricately crafted to be a poet. And I think that's why I said at the beginning, even if I didn't write, I think I would still be a poet, because I think like one, I love like one, I believe like one, I dream like one, I hope like one. So even if I'm not writing, I think I'm very much still a poet. But I think the actual poetry, the practice of it, comes from believing that that's what God's put me here to do, to write and to perform and hopefully build bridges, like it's connecting people. And I take it seriously. Like, I try to treat that with a lot of integrity. And there's definitely been moments when I'm younger where I just like write about whatever and say whatever. But as I've really actualized that God has like crafted me to do this thing, I take it really seriously, what I say yes to. Yeah. And what I say no to, and how I deliver a message and who I'm delivering it to. Because if that's like God's main intention for my life, I don't ever want to experience what happens if I step out of that, you know?
I have to ask this, and then I know producer Iman's in the head, probably like, you need to wrap this up, but we have to go here. Commercial. Mm-hmm. That commercial life, right? Because all the while, for the longest time, I'm just here like, yo, listen, if you're going to be a poet, good luck. Yeah. Ain't no money here. It's a broke person's game. You might as well be that same socks you got on. 10 years from now, if you're wearing those same socks, you done good.
Good poet.
You wrote some poems.
Good poet.
But also success, depending on how one looks at success, is really interesting. But you have done adverts. You've worked with Nike. You've worked with Calvin Klein. You have PR publicists. You've got agents. And we share a work. I didn't even tell you, there was one thing that we were up against each other. I lost to you, by the way.
What was it?
Don't worry.
No, what?
Don't worry.
What was it?
All I know is when the advert came out, I heard your voice. I'm like, I
don't think I've won anything in a while. Wait, what was it?
It's fine.
Was it Amazon?
I ain't hurt.
Oh, come on, tell me.
Don't worry, I'll tell you after.
Okay.
But it's just the idea that we sit in a certain world, and there's certain folks that kind of sit in that world where it shows the potential of what poetry can be. Because all the while there is the idea that poetry doesn't go beyond a certain point, or purists might just be like, nah, that commercial life is not for me. But you've traveled the world with your poems, and you've graced many stages, and you've done many sponsorships, ads, all that stuff. What is that like for the folks who are just wondering, listen, I ain't seeing a dime from this. It's not happening. But for you, you're a template to show that this is actually possible. What is, can you just briefly, just to touch on that, just to be like, what is that like to just have someone that is a representation of you, that talks to all these different companies and places on the behalf of you? Because that's a different life entirely.
Honestly, it's such a blessing. Like, it's not lost on me that it is rare and that it is like grace and luck and favor. And it's just a blessing. Like, I believe in the power of poetry so much, and I believe, and I've watched what happens, especially in these commercial rooms and spaces where they're not engaged in that way. I've watched how it can break a room. I've watched how it can deliver a message. And I think when you've seen the power of it in that space, you want to keep doing it in that space. And also I want to do this for life. So it has to make sense as well. Like, I don't want to have to like struggle and do it from that place. And there's areas of life that I have to struggle, do you know what I mean? And I just don't want poetry to be one of them. I love it so much. I believe in it so much, and I believe in as many people as possible hearing poetry. And actually, from just the stage, like at a poetry show, just a stage, I'm not reaching everybody. You know, half of the world, the last time they engaged with poetry was in high school, in their exams, you know, and I'm on a mission for that to be less and less people's story. And that means collaborating with these brands that have bigger reach. That means having like a bigger team and really like strategizing about, okay, how do we like pop this thing off? Like, how do we really make it pop? And it's just a blessing, honestly. It's such a blessing to have people that like believe in poetry as well, and not even if sometimes it's not because they have a history of poetry, they just believe in what we're trying to do. And like, we have like Joe, I have my manager Lindsay, Naomi, they just believe in me so much. And on days that I don't believe in myself, they're a reminder, like, now we're on a mission to bring us poetry to as many people as possible, in as many ways as possible. And that's not to say it's all commercial. I remember me and Anthony and Axaguru had a big argument about this at a show one time, because he's the way he is and I'm the way I am. And that's not to say everything I do is commercial. The majority of things I do are not. The majority of things I do also don't require me to post them online. I think a lot of this commercial stuff gets the headlines because contractually I have to post stuff, you know, but the things that I do in my day-to-day, the stages that I perform at in my day-to-day, the things that poetry are engaged in more so, they don't make the headlines, and they're not always commercial. A lot of the time they're political, or they're about, I've just finished a podcast with the UN, which was a 5-part podcast all with refugees and people that have survived genocides, and that I don't know if I'll ever post, because it wasn't relevant to that moment. Like, posting's not relevant to that project. So I definitely like do still dabble on all sides of things, but I want to do this for life, and I want to reach as many people as possible, and that means like partnering with people who have that reach as well.
I appreciate you answering that. My last thing, I'm gonna leave you alone. What are you listening to or reading at the moment?
I'm reading Sons of Achilles, I think. Sons of Achilles. I literally Googled, like, what's the most beautifully written book at the moment. Yeah. I just wanted to read something really beautiful. Like, so I'm reading that at the moment, and I'm just listening to my own demos that are coming out. That's that and gospel, to be honest, is all I've been listening to. I think the moment it starts to get dark in London and cold, it's a big effort for me to like stay a happy person. So I'm like trying to listen to gospel and just listen to the records that I've got coming out as well.
The next journey involves music. The next thought is around what you've got coming up, and I suppose it's this transition into music. So it could be that you might want to talk on, but yeah, what have you got coming up now, and what does that phase look like for you?
I'm releasing music now. I think I've been like playing on stage for ages, but I never took the step to actually like put stuff, like really make a plan to be a recording artist and do that adventure.
It's a big step, boy.
Yeah, and it's fun. Like, I think I've gone through so many emotions attached to it, but I'm just seeing it as a new adventure. I want poetry to reach more people. Like, I want lyrics to become poetic and to reach more people, and for that to become a new norm, I think, as well, inside just the lyric space and songwriting space altogether, just bringing more poetry into it. And yeah, that's this year, that's next year. 2026 is releasing, like, I think one of the first things that's coming out is, to be fair, it's like a big spoken word piece, but with a choir and singing and all kinds of stuff going on. And then I've got like things that swim closer to rap coming out as well. I've got things that are song, like pure song, and I've got things that are straight spoken word as well. But I am going on this journey of releasing that into the world. I'm building a live show. I'm building like a very experiential, very immersive live show at the moment that I hope to tour in 2026. So yeah, that's my new adventure.
I think people don't No, tell a lie. To the individual, in terms of how many ways we can explore the idea of literature and how that can be taken in. So yes, definitely you're hitting those stages to kind of share these poems, but also now you're kind of branching out into music, into shows. And those shows are curated for people to experience things in a very different way.
Yeah.
We ain't got enough time. But I want to get. But I think it's exciting to know that all the learnings that you've kind of like just put in your bag up until this point, you're now not fully, but you're kind of entering this next phase to be like, okay, this is what I've learned with this transition that I'm in, and this is now what I want everyone to experience. And we're still kind of like working with the idea of poetry in the mix of all of that, which I think is beautiful.
Yeah, because I think poetry like seizes an audience more than I've seen any other art form do, you know, like it just, you're listening to voice and that's it. So I think bringing that into this live music space is so powerful, and I've watched it happen, like when you do take those two powers and just, it's just so inviting, and I'm just doubling down on everything that I've ever known to be powerful and mixing it with what I'm now learning can be powerful as well, and just creating a mad live show.
Soph, it's been an absolute pleasure.
Yeah,
I pray that we still grow with this youth in our faces.
Amen.
Thank you for the time. Thank you for the work. Thank you for the joy. I don't think I've ever seen you vex in my entire point of like meeting you, anything.
Takes
and
a
this
lot.
industry can vex you. But you've always held so much grace on the stage, off stage, and I'm really thankful for that. And I really am excited about this next phase of what you're going into.
Thank you so much.
Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you guys.
Yes, sir. And big up the audience. Big up yourselves. Boom bam. Awesome. All right, that is it. You got us audible, you got us that kind of like visual, you got the whole mix of this 4th season of Apples and Snakes, the podcast. I hope you've enjoyed it. I've enjoyed it. You can always look back, listen back, watch back. Look forward to us for the next season of this podcast. It's been incredible to discuss performance with some great poets, great Black British poets at that. Support them, check in their work, see what they're doing. Listen to us back, watch us back, all DSPs as per. And you know, it's me, Yomi Shode. I'll see you next season. Do you know what I'm saying? Deuces.